Welcome, dear brave soul. You're tuning into Horror Podcast, and I'm truly grateful you're here. Whether you're a long-time listener or just stumbled upon this channel, thank you for joining me for another scary tale. If you enjoy these stories, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow and means more than you know. I'd also love to hear from you in the comments. Tell me where you're watching from, what brought you here, or even what kind of story you'd like to hear next. Your support keeps this channel going, and I appreciate each and every one of you. Now, let's get into today's horror story. I never thought much about working nights at a convenience store. The job wasn't exactly safe, but it wasn't the worst either. I figure if I kept my head down and followed the rules, nothing too bad could happen. That was the way I rationalized it, the way I kept myself calm when the long hours stretched into silence. I was an exchange student at the time, trying to cover expenses my host family couldn't, and the graveyard shift was the only option nobody else wanted. Most of the other students managed to land part-time gigs in restaurants, or tutoring, or even campus jobs. But me? I ended up at the 7-Eleven off Fremont Street in Las Vegas, a place that chewed through employees like nothing. The store had a reputation for turnover, and I learned quickly why. They didn't ask too many questions when they hired you, which suited me just fine. The pay was barely enough to cover rent and food, but for me, it was freedom. I wasn't depending on anyone else to keep me afloat. I could manage on my own. That mattered to me, maybe more than anything. Most nights weren't bad. A few drifters would come in, sometimes a drunk tourist stumbling off the strip, and we had our regulars, the kind of customers who bought the same coffee, the same cigarettes, the same lottery tickets, so often that I started to memorize their orders before they opened their mouths. For a while, it was routine, and in some strange way, that routine gave me comfort. My name's Daniel, and there's one night I'll never forget, because it showed me just how quickly routine can turn into chaos, and how fragile the line between control and survival really is. That night had been quiet, quieter than usual. It was around 1 a.m., and though the city outside was still buzzing, our little corner sat just far enough away from the noise to feel isolated. The strip pulsed with light and sound, but Fremont was where the neon bled into dark stretches of road, and that's where the store lived. I was at the counter, leaning on my elbows, scrolling through the CCTV monitors behind me, half bored, half tired. That's when she walked in. At first, I almost didn't register her. Customers came in and out all the time, and you learn not to jump at every new face. She was tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in dark, tattered clothes that looked like they hadn't seen a washing machine in weeks. Her boots scraped against the floor tiles with each step, heavy and dragging. It was her hand that froze me, not her clothes. In her right hand, she carried an axe, not tucked into a bag, not hidden at her side. She gripped it openly, tightly, like it was an extension of herself, and not in a way that suggested it was just a tool she'd forgotten she was holding. No, she held it like she was ready to use it. My stomach clenched hard as she stepped just inside the doorway. She didn't browse. She didn't even glance at the shelves. She just stood there, staring at me. Ma'am, you can't bring that in here, I said, my voice trying to sound steady, even though my pulse was hammering so loud I could hear in my ears. Her lips twitched into something that wasn't quite a smile. It was more like an imitation of one, like she'd seen people smile before and was trying to copy the shape without understanding the feeling behind it. You mean this? She asked, lifting the axe slightly, almost like a taunt. I swallowed hard. Yeah, that. She took a slow step forward. My hand instinctively shifted under the counter toward the panic button, hidden just below the register, but my fingers froze just shy of pressing it. My brain screamed at me to hit it, but my body locked up. Then, without warning, she slammed the axe down into the counter. The blade sank deep into the cheap laminate, and the sound made my whole body tense. It wasn't just loud, it was final, like a line had been crossed. You know this axe means I can come in whenever I want, right? Her voice was flat, almost bored, like she was explaining a simple fact I should have already known. My pulse roared in my ears. "The door's glass," she continued, her eyes fixed on mine. "This axe would go through it like nothing. So don't tell me what I can or can't bring in here." "All right," I said slowly, nodding. My voice came out smaller than I wanted, weak. For a moment, we just stared at each other. The silence stretched between us until I felt it pressing on my chest. Then she exhaled sharply, like she'd lost interest. She yanked the axe free from the counter, wood and laminate splintering as she did, and turned toward the door. As she pushed it open, she glanced back at me one last time. "You're lucky," she muttered. The bell jingled as the door shut behind her, and I stood frozen, my hands trembling so badly I had to grip the counter just to stay upright. My legs felt hollow, my throat dry. I should have called the cops right then, but fear held me still. What if she saw me through the glass? What if she came back before they arrived? Instead, I busied myself with meaningless tasks. I checked expiration dates, rearranged shelves, refold bags of chips that didn't need refolding. Anything to keep my hands moving, anything to keep my brain from spiraling. 15 minutes passed, then 20. Slowly, I started convincing myself she was gone. The bell chimed again. Relief flickered when I saw it wasn't her. A couple walked in, probably locals, mid-30s maybe. The man wore a worn leather jacket, the woman in jeans and a hoodie. They browsed quickly, grabbed a few items, and walked toward the counter. I even smiled a little as I rang them up, forcing my body back into the rhythm of routine. My shoulders loosened slightly. Normalcy felt possible again. Then the door opened again. She was back. The axe was still in her hand, and this time her expression was darker, heavier, almost like she'd thought about what to do next. The man at the counter noticed immediately. His body stiffened, his hand tightening around the items he carried. "What are you looking at?" she snapped, her voice sharp. He didn't answer at first. His eyes darted between me and her, then back at her again. "Why are you carrying that axe?" he asked, his voice even but edged with caution. Her grip tightened. "Why do you care?" "Because you could hurt someone with that thing." His words were firm, but I could see the unease in his eyes. He was trying to be brave, but fear had already crept in. She stared at him for a long, tense moment. Then her lips curled into that almost smile again. "You're right," she whispered, and before anyone could react, she swung. The blade struck his shoulder with a dull, sickening thud. His scream ripped through the silence, filling the store in a way I'll never forget. He collapsed onto the floor, his jacket darkening as blood spread across it. The woman with him shrieked, stumbling backward, her face twisted with horror. The attacker turned on her immediately, raising the axe again. The blade caught her in the back, sending her crashing forward. Her cry echoed through the aisles, sharp and desperate. I fumbled under the counter for the phone. My hand shook so badly I couldn't get a grip on it first. Finally, I managed to grab it, pressing the numbers with fingers that barely felt like mine. My voice broke as I tried to get the words out to 911, my eyes glued to the chaos in front of me. The man on the floor reached out weakly, his fingers trembling as if he was trying to protect the woman beside him. For a split second, our eyes met. His were wide, pleading, full of pain. Then his arm dropped limp. The axe-wielding woman froze suddenly. Her posture shifted, her expression twisting into something I couldn't read. She looked around wildly, as if waking up from a dream. Then she bolted, the door slamming behind her as the bell jingled mockingly. I don't even remember finishing the call, just the sound of my own voice stammering, begging them to come quickly. The cops arrived minutes later. Paramedics rushed in, their voices urgent, their hands working frantically. Against all odds, both victims were alive, barely, but alive. They caught her not long after, still wandering the streets with the axe in her hand. She went quietly, no resistance, as though the fight had drained out of her. Later, when they asked her why she did it, She claimed she didn't remember anything. No motive, no explanation, just a blank space where her memory should have been. She was sentenced to more than a decade in prison. But that doesn't erase the image burned into my mind. Her standing there in the doorway, axe in hand, eyes hollow. It doesn't erase the sound of that blade hitting flesh, the way the store filled with screams that cut through the hum of the freezers and the buzz of the lights. I don't work nights anymore. I don't even walk past that 7-Eleven if I can help it, because every time I think about it, I wonder if she'll get out someday. And if she does, will she remember me? I never thought of a convenience store as anything more than a boring place to work. Nights especially were supposed to be simple. Ring up a few customers, keep the shelves in order, and wait for the morning shift to show up. Nothing about it felt like it should carry real risk. I guess that's what made the job tolerable. This illusion that danger existed somewhere else, not inside the hum of fluorescent lights and the quiet rows of snacks. The store always had this manufactured calm about it, as though the humming freezers and neon glow created a protective barrier against the world outside. But I learned fast that danger doesn't need a reason to show up. It just does. It doesn't announce itself politely or give you time to prepare. It slides in through the cracks of the ordinary, and before you know it, you're stuck inside a moment that will change you forever. My name's Mark, and I learned that lesson the hard way one night at the 7-Eleven where I worked in Kansas City. The night started normal, the kind of routine shift that lulled me into the comfort of repetition. The store was practically empty except for a couple of college kids who came in for Red Bull around 11. Their laughter still hanging in the air as they left, and then a trucker who paid cash for diesel just before midnight. Those moments of brief company felt almost welcome because Mondays were dead nights. I'd come to expect long stretches of silence, with only the soft hum of the refrigeration units and the buzzing light above the register to keep me company. I knew what that silence meant, though. It meant time to clean, so I grabbed the mop and bucket and started on the tile, pacing the aisles like I'd done 100 times before. The hum of the freezers was steady, almost comforting, like a background track I could lean on. The cameras flickered lazily overhead, their red dots blinking in the corners. Always there, but never giving me a sense of real security. They were more like mirrors that reminded me I was being watched, even if no one was on the other side. Around 12:15, I realized I hadn't locked the doors yet. That was part of the nightly routine once the pumps switched over, but sometimes I let it slide if I was busy. Mondays rarely brought trouble, so I got careless. I set the mop aside, grabbed the keys from under the counter, and started toward the entrance. That's when I noticed him. He didn't look like much at first, just another late-night customer walking in from the lot. His hoodie was baggy, his jeans hung loose, and his sneakers scuffed the floor with every step. But something about the way he moved made me uneasy. His hands stayed shoved deep into his hoodie pocket, his steps sharp and jerky, almost like his body was spring-loaded. His eyes didn't move the way most customers did, scanning shelves for snacks or drinks. They scanned me. Before I could even process it, he stepped fully inside, yanked his sweatshirt up, and I saw the handle of a gun tucked into his waistband. "Don't move," he said. His voice was low, tight, and full of something unstable. "Don't say a word." The words hit me like a slap. My throat went dry instantly, and I felt my stomach drop in a way that made my legs weak. I nodded, raising my hands slightly without even thinking. It felt instinctive, primal, my body surrendering before my brain could catch up. "Go stand by the counter," he ordered. I obeyed, my legs suddenly heavy, each step like dragging cinder blocks. My heartbeat was so loud in my ears that I swore he could hear it too. Behind me, the freezers hummed. The hot dog rollers spun lazily, the sausages shriveled and turning like always, but it all felt wrong. Too quiet, too normal. Like the store itself was holding its breath, waiting to see what would happen. The man didn't move like someone in control. His eyes were wild, darting from shelf to shelf, then back to me. His body was tense, every muscle wired tight, and his fingers twitched close to the gun as if the weight of it was burning through him. He wasn't calm or methodical. He was unpredictable, and that, more than anything, terrified me. Unpredictable people with weapons are the worst kind of threat. I stared straight ahead, my vision locked on a hot food display in front of me. The bright lights reflected off the glass, illuminating the sad, overcooked hot dogs rolling endlessly. It was surreal, absurd even, that something so ordinary kept moving like nothing was happening while I stood frozen in fear. Then I saw him, Jason, my coworker, stiff as a board behind the register. His face was pale, his jaw clenched, and his hands gripped the counter so hard his knuckles had turned white. I hadn't even realized he was there when it all started. His eyes flicked toward me, just for a second, and I understood everything he was trying to say without a word. Stay calm. Don't make it worse. The gunman started sweeping through the aisles, moving quickly but without direction. He grabbed cigarettes, bottles of alcohol, anything small enough to shove into his backpack. He muttered under his breath as he moved, his words disjointed, like he was arguing with himself. I couldn't make out what he said, but the tone was sharp, agitated. I tried to keep my breathing steady, but my body betrayed me. My bladder screamed from the pressure of fear. It was the stupidest thing to think about in that moment, but it was all I could focus on. Every nerve in me was firing, and instead of thinking clearly, my body was clenching around this primal urge to run to the bathroom. I clenched my fists, willing myself to ignore it, but the urge was unbearable. My brain was split, one part screaming to stay still, the other urging me to move. When the gunman turned his back, just for a second, I thought about it. The thought wasn't rational, but it was loud. Run. Now. My mind told me it was insane, but my body overrode it. I bolted. I didn't make it 3 steps before the deafening crack of a gunshot split the air. I froze. My ears rang instantly, the sound reverberating in my skull. The smell of gunpowder hit my nose, sharp and metallic. He hadn't hit me. He'd fired into the ceiling, but that didn't make the terror any less. My knees nearly buckled under me. The next thing I knew, his hand was on the back of my neck, shoving me forward so hard I stumbled. His breath was hot against my ear, his words seething. "You're real stupid, old man," he hissed. "Next time, the bullet goes through you." I nodded, every part of my body trembling. My chest heaved, my lungs straining for air. I wanted to disappear in the floor. He shoved me back into place near the counter, his eyes blazing with fury. Then came the sound I didn't expect, sirens. The wail cut through the silence, faint at first, then growing louder. Red and blue lights spilled across the parking lot, flashing through the glass doors. The gunman cursed under his breath, his eyes darting to the windows. "Damn it, this is your fault," he snarled, turning his glare on me. He grabbed my arm, yanking me hard enough that I stumbled. "We're walking out together. You're coming with me." My knees went weak, but I didn't resist. What choice did I have? My arm burned under his grip, my skin crawling where his hand pressed into me. The glass doors slid open, and the cold night air rushed in. For a second, it was almost shocking, like the outside world had no idea what was happening in here. But the world knew. Police were already in position, weapons drawn, their voices booming commands into the night. "Drop the weapon. Let him go." The gunman ignored them, dragging me toward a car parked near the front. My heart sank. I knew this wouldn't end well. Not for him, maybe not for me. The way his hand tightened on me told me he was desperate. Desperate people make the worst choices. Then, out of nowhere, Jason moved. He must have followed us outside, because suddenly the grip on my arm was ripped away. Jason had launched himself at the gunman, tackling him with a force I didn't know he had. Both of them crashed to the pavement, the gun clattering across the concrete, skidding out of reach. Chaos erupted instantly. Officers swarmed in, shouting, pinning the man down. Jason rolled away, gasping for breath, his chest heaving as though he'd just emptied every ounce of strength he had left. And just like that, it was over. I stood frozen, my whole body trembling. The adrenaline drained out of me, leaving me hollow, shaky. I watched as they cuffed the suspect, pressing his face against the cold ground. His muffled curses were swallowed by the commotion around us. An officer approached me, his voice calm but firm. "You all right?" I nodded weakly, my voice catching. "Yeah, I think so. We'll need your statement," he said. I rubbed my face with trembling hands, the reality of it all settling into my bones. The only words I could manage came out raw, almost absurd. "Can I use your restroom first?" The officer blinked, then gave me a small, almost sympathetic smile. "Yeah, I think we can arrange that." That night, walking back into the store felt surreal. The aisles looked the same, the lights buzzed the same, the shelves were just as neat as I'd left them. But everything had shifted. The routine, the rhythm, the quiet safety I thought I could rely on. It was gone, and I knew I'd never look at that place, or any late night shift, the same way again. Turning 18 felt like stepping into a world I wasn't quite ready for, even though I told myself for years that freedom was all I wanted. I had my first car, a 2006 Toyota Corolla with a dented bumper and an air conditioner that worked only when it felt like it. It wasn't much, but it was mine, and having the keys in my pocket gave me this illusion of control. I thought being able to drive meant I could go anywhere, that nothing could really pin me down anymore. The truth is, you don't realize how vulnerable you are until you're alone somewhere, and the only thing between you and danger is a set of flimsy locks. My name's Maya, and I'll never forget the night I stopped for gas at 7-Eleven outside Wichita and realized that the difference between safe and unsafe is sometimes just one decision. It was late July, muggy and hot, the kind of night where the air feels sticky even after the sun's gone down. I've been driving a few hours already, heading down I-35 to visit my cousins in Oklahoma. The trip was supposed to feel exciting, my first long drive by myself, my first taste of independence. But halfway through, I noticed the gas gauge dropping faster than I expected. I'd been careless, blasting music, windows down, not paying attention. By the time the low fuel light blinked on, I was somewhere between exits, nothing around but a dark stretch of highway. Relief washed over me when I saw the glow of a 7-Eleven sign at the next exit. I pulled off and wound down a quiet side road until the store came into view. It wasn't the kind of place that made you feel at ease. Flickering neon lights, a cracked lot with oil stains, a single buzzing street lamp over the pumps. Only 2 other cars were parked there, one by the gas pumps and another tucked along the side of the building. I parked at the nearest pump and killed the engine. The silence hit me as soon as the music stopped. It was too quiet, the kind of quiet that makes you hyper-aware of your own breathing. I climbed out, locked the doors out of habit, and slid my card into the machine. The pump clicked on, the numbers climbing slowly. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw him. He looked mid-20s, maybe early 30s, tall and thin with messy stubble across his jaw. He wore a faded hoodie even though it was sweltering, and his jeans were ripped in a way that didn't look fashionable, more worn out. He lingered by the doors of the store, leaning against the glass, a cigarette smoldering between his fingers. His eyes flicked toward me once, then again, and this time they stayed. I kept my gaze fixed on the pump, pretending not to notice. When it clicked to full, I yanked the nozzle free, shoved it back, and hurried inside. The bell over the door chimed. The air smelled faintly of cleaning solution and burnt coffee. Only one employee was working, a young guy about my age who nodded at me half-heartedly from behind the counter. I grabbed a bottle of water and a bag of chips, partly because I wanted them, but mostly because I needed a reason to linger until I felt calmer. That's when I realized the man from outside had come in. He walked straight to the back coolers, opened one, and pulled out a single beef jerky stick. That was all. For the next few minutes, he drifted around the aisles, pretending to browse, but never straying too far from me. Every time I moved to another aisle, he followed. My chest tightened. It wasn't subtle. It wasn't coincidence. I carried my things to the counter, but the cashier was gone. A small sign sat on the register. "Be right back." My stomach dropped. The man was close now. Too close. I could smell the faint mix of cigarettes and stale sweat on him. "Late night for you," he said casually. I forced a short laugh. "Yeah, long drive." His eyes flicked up sharp. "Headed home." I froze. I hadn't said anything about being on the road. How did he know? I backed a step toward the door. Actually, I forgot my wallet in the car. My voice shook, but I forced it steady enough to pass. I turned quickly, heart pounding, but before I could push through the doors, I felt a tug on my sleeve. He grabbed me. I ripped away, bolting outside into the thick summer night. That's when I saw them. 2 more men. They stepped out from around the side of the building, like they'd been waiting. One was stockier, wearing a baseball cap pulled low, the other tall and thin with a cigarette hanging from his mouth. They started moving toward me without a word. Panic took over. My Corolla was only a few feet away, but the distance felt impossible. My keys slipped in my sweaty hands as I fumbled to unlock the door. One of them lunged, grabbing for my jacket. I yanked free, throwing my weight into the car and slamming the door shut just as his hand smacked against the glass. I jammed the locks down and twisted the key. The engine sputtered, then roared awake. Through the windshield, I saw the 3 of them staring at me, expressions cold, unreadable. One yanked on the passenger handle, but it held. I slammed the car into reverse, tires screeching as I backed up too fast. The bumper nearly clipped the pump, but I didn't care. I spun the wheel, heart racing so loud it drowned out everything else, and shot back onto the dark road. In the rearview mirror, their silhouettes shrank until they were swallowed by the neon glow. I didn't stop driving until I reached the next town over. When I finally pulled into a well-lit Walmart lot, my hands were shaking so badly I could barely dial 911. My voice cracked as I told the dispatcher what happened, giving them the location, the descriptions, everything I remembered. They promised to send officers. Later, I learned that the cashier had been tied up in the back room by those men. He was terrified but alive. The footage from the cameras showed everything. Their faces, their movements, the way they'd been waiting. But by the time police arrived, they were gone. Just gone. I don't like thinking about what would have happened if I hadn't trusted my gut, if I'd ignored that feeling when he followed me through the aisles. I still replay it sometimes. The weight of his hand on my sleeve, the cold certainty that if I'd hesitated even one more second, I wouldn't have made it to the car. Now I never let my tank drop below half. I don't pull into empty lots after dark. I keep pepper spray in my bag and my keys between my fingers when I walk alone, because that night taught me something I wish I'd never learned so young. Danger doesn't announce itself. Sometimes it looks like a man buying a single piece of jerky at a 7-Eleven, and by the time you realize, you're already cornered.